So today we're gonna step through how to use the RePlan tool for incentives projects or for block grant beneficiary project. And we're gonna talk a little bit about the changes for this RePlan tool from maybe previous times if anybody has experience using it previously. And then we're gonna go through a full example. And then finally, we're gonna show you how you might be able to edit it if you need to edit the project after you've completed it. So I'm mostly gonna share my screen. As we step through the tool. So you're looking at the tool, and this looks fairly similar to the way that we've landed on the landing page for the tool in previous years. But some major differences are that this year the RePlan tool combines Comet Planner, and it combines, so basically the greenhouse gas emission reductions calculations and the price calculations for the different practices for their reimbursement rates. It incorporates that into the project design. So in previous years, you had to do the project design in RePlan and then take that information to a different website, go to the Comet Planner website, enter that. Now, whenever you do your project design, it'll be automatically calculated. There's a couple of other sort of, let's call them quality of life improvements we've added, we've had added for the RePlan tool. And that's just to help us be able to do better project designs and more specific and accurate project designs. And then finally, we're definitely connecting the soil samples to the field. And so we'll see how that looks. So I'm going to do a start to finish example of an incentives project. We're on the landing page here. And the first thing you want to do is select incentives program. So for block grant recipients, if you're creating a project for your grant beneficiary, it's incentives. ES staff in Healthy Soils, we deal with the incentives program project designs here. You can click begin. The next thing is it brings you to a starting page where we'd start to fill out things for what the project would look like, but where do we want to do it? So there's a couple of different ways. You can see I've tried out a couple of different addresses before, and you can also select a county and then put in an APN. So if you are having a problem finding the APN, it may be that it is written in a different format or you have it in a different format than the way that it's listed in the RePlan. So one suggestion could be put in an address close by or try and get close by and then identify the APN. The other way is if maybe your address isn't looking, if you know that you can zoom into sort of the general area. But today we're going to put in an address. This is an address close by to an APN that I'm looking for. And it should zoom me all the way down. And so it brought me to this, I think it's a daycare center or something, but I actually want to work on this field here. So this is the field I want to work on. And so you'll see also then that it brings your APN up and you can check there as you're working if that looks like the correct APN that you're working in. Okay, so I'm going to be building a project here. The first thing I'm going to do is identify the cropping system. I think we are doing cropland here. And I'm interested in 3 different practices. I'm going to show you a project design where we look at compost, cover crop, and then a hedgerow. So I'm going to pick my first practice, compost application. For the Healthy Soils program, for the spirit of the program, we really want to incentivize new adoption of climate smart practices. And so we ask a question that says, is the practice currently being implemented or was it implemented in the field in the previous year? If you select yes, and something will come up here that says the practice selected is not eligible for funding. And that's because it's not a new practice, right? You want a new practice on the land or a new field where you're trying out that practice. So I haven't done compost here, so I'm going to click no. And that's like, great, it brings you to implementation. So here's where you're going to pick your implementation scenario, which will translate to your payment rate. You can see for compost, we always have our 4 different scenarios, less than or equal to 11 carbon to nitrogen ratio, greater than 11 carbon to nitrogen ratio, and then you can choose on farm or purchase. I'm going to use greater than 11 C to N ratio compost that is purchased from a certified facility. So I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to select my payment scenario. So basically, how many tons per acre do I want to apply it at? And then I want to apply it at 7 tons per acre. So I'm going to select that. The next thing it says is the years implemented. This is a practice that needs to be implemented once a year, each year during the grant term. So implemented projects years 1 through 3. So now we have to draw a field. I'm going to zoom in, maybe to here, and I'm going to start drawing. And I'm just gonna give it a go and just try and draw a quick field like that. Okay. You'll notice now that I got several warnings. I got a couple warnings. I got one. Your field contains an APN that's less than 10% of your total area. Make sure that you want that in there. This is just saying, hey, there's probably a little other APN in there, and if you want that in there, great. If you don't, we have some ways to handle that. The other thing that it's telling me is that your field includes areas beyond the available parcel data. So there's something like a road or a public right of way or a body of water here that doesn't have an APN and we wouldn't be including it. So we need to edit or redraw the field. Um, I'm like, okay, let me zoom in. I think that the deal with the parcel area is that I've actually put my field into the road. So I'm going to just drag it into there and I can click save. Oh, okay, but I still get this 10% area and I'm like, oh, okay, what's going on there? So you can look down at your APN list down here and you can see the APNs, and I see that I have a big APN that's 73.3 acres and it's highlighted on my map. Then I have, oh, a tiny little, oh, I don't want to be putting it in there. And oh, I definitely don't want to put it in there. So what you can do is you can click remove. And we get that same area because if you remember, there's still one more, and then you can click remove. And now it's automatically given you your APN that you would like your thing in. The final thing you can do is, let's say, for the purpose of this example, we want to, for some reason, not implement, like, let's say this structure is bigger and we're not going to plant around it. We want to add a cutout here to make sure we're not going to plant around it. You can just draw a little cutout. And so what this is going to do is basically subtract this area from your total area when it does all of the calculations. You'll notice your total area is decreased just a little bit. I've added a cutout. Okay, so here's my field. I'm very happy with the boundary. I've added a cutout to make sure I'm not implementing anything there. And now I'm going to select how many soil samples per field we want to be taking. You'll notice you have to take at least one. There is no 0 option, but you can take more. We have up to 10 here per field listed. Soil samples are part of your budget, so keep that in mind. I'm going to say for the 73 acre size field, I'll take 2 soil samples for this field. The next thing you need to do is you need to add proposed crops in. Now, I think this, let's say this was a tomato. And then I'm going to actually keep it in tomato. And you'll see this is the budget. For the Healthy Soils Incentives Program, our total project budget was $100,000. So I wouldn't be able to implement any more practices given that budget, basically maybe like a tiny bit of cover crop in a little corner if I really wanted to try and max it out. But for Healthy Soils block grants, our total cap is $200,000. So I have a little more room here, so I'm going to hit save. And I'm going to go ahead and add another practice. It's still in cropland. I'm going to add cover crop. And I haven't been cover cropping on this, so I'm going to click no. And I would like to add, it looks like I'm going to add a legume seasonal cover crop to irrigated cropland, and I'm going to do multiple different species of that legume. Now, I can choose an existing field because cover crop and compost can overlap as practices. Or I could draw a new field somewhere else. Like maybe I want to cover crop over here or not. So in this case, I'm going to choose an existing field. And that's where I'm going to implement my cover crop. I already have samples selected for this field. We don't need to do any more samples because it's the same field, tomatoes, tomatoes. But the next thing I need to do is select my species. I've clicked this and I'm just waiting for it to show up. The pop-up for species selection just takes a little bit of time. So if you're clicking because you want it to be instant, just take a breath while it shows up. And now you can look and see like, oh, okay, I have recommended species lists. And I can select plants from those by clicking these drop-down things. The other thing I want to highlight here is that you can download the species list as a PDF. So you could click, okay, so I filled on cover crop species list, and that's what's available. But I want to do a couple of things. I picked a legume because I really want to encourage nitrogen fixation. I'm going to pick crimson clover. I have clicked there, see it's clicking. You just gotta wait a little bit once you click. So if it doesn't show up right away, just wait once you've clicked. All right, and maybe a vetch. I just saw one. We'll go with cowpea. Okay. Oh, I'm picking multiple species, so I need at least two. I'm gonna go here, and then I think I want, I don't know, let's look for capture nutrients. Great. I'm gonna put a cereal rye. Done. Okay. So I have my species selected. I downloaded that, and you can also see the budget. It's on the same field, so there's no additional cost because we already have soil samples. I'm going to save that. You can see my total cost for my project now is $132,472. So I still have a little bit more, and I really want to put a hedgerow in. Okay, this is a cropland. Now I'm looking for a hedgerow. Okay, I'm putting a hedgerow here. I don't have a hedgerow. Maybe there's a little hedgerow here, but it's on the other side of the field. I'm put it, place a strip. Okay, single row. And so hedgerow is a one-time practice. You implement it once in the grant term. I'm going to implement it in year 2. I'm going to get my grant going, and then I'm going to work on getting that hedgerow put in. So I need to draw. So if you look, why is my field grayed out? We're not able to select field 1 because field 1 is a shape, and hedgerows are linear lines that we're drawing. So I'm like, oh, okay. You can click why is my field grayed out, and it can tell you a little more if you want to read about that. So I need to draw a new field. So I'm going to click that. So this field 2. You can always change the names of your field. So if I didn't want this to be field 2, I could be like hedgerow. You can be more creative with it if you'd like. Now I'm gonna start drawing. So I'm gonna be ambitious about this, and I really would love it if my hedgerow could go basically the whole time. Now I remember I'm not implementing anything there, so I'm actually want my hedgerow to go around that, all the way down here, all the way down here. Okay. Decently long, like 5,000-foot hedgerow, pretty big. How many samples are we gonna take? And I think I'm gonna pick like 3. The post crop, well, this was a tomato, but we're taking it out, and then enter. Well, it's going to be going to hitch, but I guess we can say that there's tomato still around it. We can select species. I clicked it and I'm waiting it up. Now hedgerows, you need to have a mix of perennial wildflowers, shrubs, and trees that are beneficial to pollinators. So I definitely want to click some attract pollinators, and let's think about what I want. So I am looking for perennials here. Probably gonna choose some natives. I think, I like this. We'll pick this. What else do we like? Oh, put some grasses in. That seems nice. Maybe some giant western lupine. Beautiful, great, yeah. And you can at any time, if you want to change your hedgerow species, grantees can work with their block grant recipient providers to work on those changes. We have Healthy Soils Incentives grantees come and talk to us about changing them. So it's not a set in stone kind of thing. Oh yeah, and I love flannel. Okay, so this is my hedgerows that I'm gonna pick. Once again, you can download that species list. Those are downloading. Done. And I picked it. Oh, it's 60,000. So let's save. Oh, perfect. I actually haven't come in over budget. This is great. I'll just quickly add a new practice to show you what happens if you go over budget. I'm gonna add a new field of compost. So I haven't done this before. I'm gonna pick the same kind of compost scenario. And let's just say I'm drawing a new field. This will be compost only. And I'm just gonna draw it up here really quick. Okay. And then, okay, come over here. Okay. Cut on like me. You can zoom in to a lot closer if you really want to get better at your cutout. So if you wanted to edit that cutout to be like really clear. I'm not saying you have to cut these kinds of things out in your project. I'm just providing you an example. You need to cut out permanent structures, ponds, paved roads, canals, that kind of thing should be cut out. big areas of tree if you're planting or cropland, like that kind of thing. There's the APN, and I'm just going to do one soil sample. Also tomato, save. Uh-oh, I'm over budget. So if you do go over budget, you will get an error here, and it's the $200,000 is the thing that will trigger the error. Okay, well, I'm not going to do compost on that field. I'm just going to, I'll just delete field volume. Okay. Okay, I'm happy with this. It's still red here, but that's fine. I'm in budget. I've got my practice total, my soil sample total. I'm going to finish up. We have a couple of questions you have to answer before you finish up. You first need to indicate whether or not you would like your project or your grant beneficiary would like their project to be listed on the carbon registry, which would say this project's eligible, but we don't have funding, or maybe it doesn't get funded, but it's still eligible, and you want it maybe to be listed as somebody who could pick it up. So and fund it so you could work on it. So you could say yes or no. I'm going to say yes. And then we have 2 documents. You must download both of these documents. You're going to click download PDF, hang out, okay, download Excel. Great. Okay, so now you've got your documents. I'm going to just quickly, in downloads, I'm just going to bring up our documents for us. There's my project, and I'm happy. If you at any point get to this point and need to go back and edit it, you can go ahead and do that. I'm going to close this though, and I'm going to bring up some documents to look at, and we can look at what to do. Okay, sweet. The first thing I wanted to show you quickly is this is the hedgerow species list. Remember when I downloaded all the species to a hedgerow? So if you're like, I'm selecting these, but I'm not 100% sure that these are exactly the species I'd like, and maybe later I want to change, you can download the species list for your area taken from CalFlora eVeg guide, and you can have them here. So that's great. Super love that. All the different categories. So I just wanted to show you that that's what these kinds of species lists look like, and you can have those to download. So the PDF download of your RePlan report will look like this. It'll have a tracking number. This tracking number is just an internal thing for RePlan. It's not connected to an application. It's just like this tracking number on the PDF should match the tracking number listed on the Excel that you download. You have your grant total requested, you have the date it was prepared, and then you have a link. We'll come back to that link. You got your project summary and budget. This is showing the summary for the total grant term cost. This is not a per year cost. This is the total grant term cost. So for compost application, you do it 3 times. So you divide this value by 3 to get your per year reimbursement, right? And then it provides some totals for implementation acreage, greenhouse gas emission reductions, project cost, and then 5 samples for 3 years, your soil sampling budget cost, and then it provides you your total budget cost. The other thing it does is it provides you an overview of the practices when you're going to implement this. This is taking the place of the project work plan that we've had previously. So instead of being an Excel table that you had to fill out yourself, it's now automated. This is the payment scenario. This is where it's going. The acreage, the timeline, the soil sampling, parcels, and county. You'll also see that there's like quick links here in this document that you can click, and it takes you to the field. So it shows you the map where it's happening and provides all this information that you're doing. So you can go ahead and take a look, like your species are here. And then also you have always listed your implementation and verification requirements. So as you're looking about how to implement correctly and then what documentation to collect, it's all listed here for each practice on each field. So that's great. The next thing you have is an Excel table, and this is something that's basically like an Excel form of all the data that you collected from that PDF. So you see your tracking number, your agricultural system, practices, practice implementation, payment scenario. This is all visible on that PDF in a sort of digestible manner, and this is a table manner. You got some summaries here, different pieces of data. You also have your co-benefits. So if it reduces if it improves air quality, that could be listed here. In this case, does the field reduce net on-site criteria air pollutants? Yes, yes, yes. Wow. But it's not located in a priority population. Great. Okay, so good to know. Okay. You also have your senators, your assembly members, and then also that question about the carbon registry. The Excel table is really helpful for tracking. If you're a block grant recipient, you'll know that this is part of the data that we copy into our on-farm project approval forms and how to think about editing and monitoring our on-farm projects as they get implemented. But let's say your grantee needs to edit their project. You can actually click this link and it brings you back to their project. And so this is where if you, let's say they were like, I love my project, but it's just not feasible for me to do all of that hedgerow length, you can say, all right, let's see. Maybe we can, if you just click it once, it deletes a thing. You know what, we're just going to do half the field. And you're like, oh, thank you so much. That really makes this a lot more feasible for me. You don't have to re-enter anything. You've selected all your species. You can save, finish. We've selected yes, and now you can re-download the new PDF in Excel. If you edit this way, just a heads up, it'll edit the document. So if there was something you had before and you edit it or delete it, it's gone. There's not a lot of version history. Download the Excel. Okay, so this is how to use the RePlan tool, how to navigate around in the RePlan tool. If you ever run into something weird and there's an error and you really can't figure it out, please just email the Healthy Soils team. We will always work on these errors with you. So thanks. I'll stop sharing and stop recording.